This isn't just kumbaya talk. Purpose drives impact. Looking to empower up your day? Tune in to Evolve Together with Empower People. Join me, host and Empower People founder Tiffany Joy Greene, MBA, as I bring dynamic leaders, change makers, and entrepreneurs to share their journeys, challenges, and successes while driving their purpose to drive positive impact and empower people. Empower People is an organization that provides education, connection, and support to mission and purpose-driven leaders to drive positive impact and empower people. Join Empower People today. What are you waiting for? We even have a free membership. That's right, free. Visit www.empowerpeople.org. That is MPWRPeople.org. You can also visit us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Evolve Together. Welcome to Evolve Together with Empower People, the show that brings you inspiring stories, expert insights, and transformative advice. And some humor, because I say it's funny. Well, I laugh anyway. I'm your host, Tiffany Joy Greene, MBA, founder of Empower People, and I got the COO, Chris Mayfield. I almost think we need to change it to CGO, Chief Good Officer. But anyway, each week we dive into topics that are rooted in how purpose drives business and positive impact. Join us as we connect with dynamic guests, explore innovative ideas, and empower you to evolve and thrive in every aspect of your life. Stay tuned because together we'll have more bloopers and we can achieve greatness. Let's evolve together. To learn more about Empower People, you can visit www.mpwrpeople.org. That's mpwrpeople.org. Or you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. We're everywhere, almost. Hashtag Empower People. So now let's get into the meat of today's show. We're going to talk yesterday, for those who tuned in, yesterday, Chris, I don't know if you know this, you probably do, but our course yesterday was getting out of the weeds. And I just find it ironic. I know we're not going to talk about this per se, but you had mentioned to me earlier about how you were doing lawn care yesterday. And yesterday, when we were giving the course with Jared Ryder about getting out of the weeds, I kept teasing him and the people who were listening that this is not a show on lawn care. And so I kind of feel like
Coincidentally, that's exactly where I was, in the weeds.
in the weeds. And it's like, there's a theme happening here. But
You know,
today, what are we talking about, Chris? What the heck are we talking about?
well, when we went during the last episode, we started to get into employee compensation and how that intersects with culture and how various kinds of businesses might have different approaches to employee comp. So we thought that would be a discussion where nothing will get decided or settled, but hopefully we give some good points of view for people to then take, consider, and apply to their unique situation. So I think it's a conversation that can be contentious, right? Depending on the model of the business, it could, make you lose a lot of sleep. And that we both know the one thing I love to do is sleep. So,
I appreciate it greatly, Chris.
I don't want to lose any more sleep over this issue. But it's an important conversation to have, especially internally inside organizations, on what is comp, what isn't comp, what's the threshold for comp. A big topic. We don't want to get into the weeds, but it's a discussion worth having.
And I think what makes this really interesting is, like, picture this, folks. Picture that you don't see us on this Zoom screen or on YouTube or Facebook, but we're standing in a boxing ring. To the right, we have Chris Mayfield. He is representing the market, and I am representing purpose and culture on the other side, right? So I think you might go, this isn't a very sexy or exciting topic. Oh, we'll make it exciting, or at least a little funny. At least a little bit of entertainment. We'll interject a little bit.
Yeah. Other than what good service, what goods or service or thing do we offer, and what is our product. This is probably the second most important conversation you'll ever have in business, because it is the factor on uh, whether you're going to survive or thrive, or kind of die on the vine.
Well,
Uh,
let's get into it, Chris. So compensation.
yep.
Let's imagine um we're creating a brand new business, you and we know straight out the gate we're gonna need, we'll just say 10 employees. Just let's just say 10 employees. You and I come to the table. We got, how are we gonna build this compensation package? Chris, now I'm gonna ask you as if we're doing this. Chris, we gotta talk compensation. We're bringing 10 folks into this ABC company.
Yep.
What do you propose, Chris? What are your thoughts?
Well, like everything, it's a process, right? So before you can consider what the comp should be, you have to consider what the purpose of the position is and what are they expected to perform and to what standard are they expected to perform it. And you then back that into, okay, what are the prerequisites for the person that I might hire for this position? Does it require some kind of degree or advanced degree? Does it require some experience? All right. So that would be my first step, is to fully understand each position and how that position supports our strategy, which then supports the purpose.
So what
So
I'm hearing you say, and I'm going to repeat back to what you said in HR terms. I'm hearing you say, we got to build out our organizational chart and our job descriptions, what each of these 10 people will be doing and what kind of requirements they would need to fulfill in order to be considered for the position.
yes, and all that together, uh, you still have to answer the yes or no question. Does this support a strategy, and does that strategy support the purpose?
Correct.
So uh, if all those things are a yes, then we can, if how we envision this position participating inside our system, and then we develop that good job description with minimum requirements, the nice to have, life to have, all those things, and then
I'm sorry, folks. Mr. Mayfield is in a
is
county.
they
Oh, you're
immediately.
back. You're back.
Oh, well, I think one of the dangers people fall into immediately is they say, well, here's what I can pay uh, for that position versus here's what that position does and here's how that supports our strategy and vision. So when we start putting comp or the dollars and cents before the strategy and vision, we can get into trouble in a hurry, because what we can afford to pay off and won't satisfy our requirements, or we'll be buying the Rolex when we need a Timex, right? So
I think you and I are approaching this in the same manner. Like I will say I would approach this in the same way I approach a lot of things in life, which is exactly what you said. What is our purpose? What are we trying to achieve? Okay, if we need the 10 folks to carry out the strategy to support the purpose, okay, let's paint that picture out. We also gotta be, once you got the list, the shopping list, so to speak, you also gotta evaluate your budget.
yep.
Does the budget support what I want to do? Too many people, and I will say this in like lots of areas of life. It's funny how when we talk, I feel a lot of things when we talk about business actually apply to a lot of things, right? Um, don't cut your nose off to spite your face. So don't lead with budget first, right?
Yep.
Because that's what I think a lot of businesses do. They say, well, this is my budget. So what can we get for this budget? So you might be getting the thing that's not really going to support the purpose or move the needle as much as you'd like based on that. So in a situation like that, you might say, well, then maybe we just got to hold off until we can have a budget of this in order to get the thing that's really, you know what I mean? It's a delicate balance. Would you agree with that?
It is, and it is kicking the can down the road is one method, right? The other method, and I think a more systematic approach would be to break apart my requirements
Mm-hmm.
and say, here they are prioritized. Uh, which ones am I willing to kick down the road, and which ones do I need
Right.
right now?
Mm-hmm.
And does that bring my budget closer without, does it get me closer to my budget without sacrificing my strategic goals? So that's one approach, right? And then because you may find out that what you thought initially was important just isn't important today. And then you can develop a growth plan for that position based on the real dollars and cents. Uh, when we, it's kind of a it's kind of a startups are particularly hard because you don't know what you don't know. Mature businesses, it's a much different conversation. So, but yeah, in a startup, if we were going to start from scratch, purpose, strategy, and then prioritized goals, and then I would start looking for somebody that can meet my immediate need and has the potential to hit those outdate needs, and then go from there.
My follow-up question to that is because I've seen this happen a lot. So you go, okay, this is what we need. This is our budget. We got to prioritize. So a lot of times what I have seen is the business owner or owners decide to come up with a new job description that's a unicorn. Meaning
Yeah,
like, look,
yeah,
I'm
and
finding this person because, well, I really need this, I really need this, and I really need this. So we're going to create this whole new job that's going to include all of this. And they go out there, they hire the person, and they're like, what? This didn't work out.
yeah,
What's your
and
advice?
that's true of startups and of mature companies.
What's your advice on for that scenario?
So, um, you know, I I would not. I'm first off, the unicorn job solicitation is ridiculous, right? It does not make sense to do it. So if you find yourself heading in that direction, just stop because you're not going to do yourself any favors. So if if you are struggling and you find yourself writing that unicorn job description, here's what I would uh, do is I would look at the aggregate of my requirement and I would put it all on a whiteboard or piece of paper or in a Word document or something requirement. And then uh, prioritize those and then write the job description based on the number of hours, right, weeks, whatever it is, and then write that job description or that hiring description, um, and leave that room for opportunity to grow in the position. Uh, don't make it so grandiose that you're going to end up paying for the Rolex when you need the Timex, right? Or the opposite. You're underestimating what it's going to take, and you buy a Timex and need a Rolex. So I would look at the sum total aggregate demand for those 10 people, uh, tied specifically to a strategy, tied specifically to purpose. Toss out the ones that don't support the strategy because we tend to add a lot of fluff in there, right? Be a team player. Okay, yeah,
Who
we all
doesn't want
know
a
that.
team player?
Yeah,
By
we
the way,
all
I
know
want to
that.
know that answer. Who doesn't want a team player?
So, but what is the real aggregate need what is the real demand, and then decide how many positions it is, how many, what is the budget requirement, current and future. So uh, there may be a situation where you say, I need a person that can do these 25 things, but in reality, no person is going to get that done in 40 weeks. And what you need, or 40 hours, sorry, 40 weeks. Whew,
That's good PTO time. Let's talk
they're
about that.
that's good. That's good overtime right there. Uh, but so really, what you want is two people that are doing much simpler tasks, and then require, because the tasks are simpler, uh, and the process is easier. Um, you're hiring two people at a lower cost each, rather than one person at a greater cost. That has its trade-offs too, right? But uh, that would be my approach. Why is the number 10 people? Why is it not 8 people? Why is it not 11 people? Because when you're, if you are breaking it down simply by job function, maybe that's right, maybe it isn't, and more often than not, it isn't right.
And maybe it's something you could subcontract out and not even have to have an employee.
That and here, if I had to rub my crystal ball, if you went with this first methodology where you said, okay, I need 10 people and they're going to do these things, and you never have that big picture aggregate demand in mind, ultimately what's going to happen is you're going to hire those 10 people. And then what you're going to find out is, well, for position one, it actually makes more sense for position one to do a vast majority of position two. And then that person's now going to come to you and say, well, I'm now doing this person's job. You should pay me more. Maybe they're right, maybe they're not. But I can't tell you how many times I've had that conversation. All right, because what people do is they associate their salary with those tasks
Yes.
rather than associating their salary with that time. Right. So if I hire you to do something, and this is where um, you might enjoy a little flexibility. And I give you a list of tasks I expect you to accomplish and the standard I expect you to meet, and you agree to that, and we're off to the races. But should that change, if that changes, now I'm kind of violating what I told you I'm hiring you for. So, and then that makes a lot of people angry. Like, well, I wasn't told I had to empty my own trash can. I wasn't, right. I mean, that's kind of a horrible example, maybe, but I'm not good at on the fly examples. But so without, if you don't do that careful analysis of demand up front before you hire people, you're certainly getting in trouble. Absolutely, 100%.
I agree. And I think what I'm hearing you say is really, if we were to boil down what you were just saying, I'm hearing the number one step here. And it may have been said, but I want to make sure we're, underlining it, which is when you're outlined the strategy, purpose, and the task required to move the needle on those things first. Forget job descriptions first. Iron out what you need, and then you have to, it's like, then you create your buckets. Well, if it's engineering, these are some of the engineering things we need. Here's some of the administrative things we need. Here's some of the accounting things. Like now you can kind of start putting things in buckets. And the
Yep.
buckets that seem to be more full, well, now you're paying yourself some job descriptions, right? Now
Yep.
it's like, okay, this engineering bucket is deep, man. This is filled, but we only got a couple things sitting in that accounting bucket. So now the question is, now you can start that makes prioritizing a whole lot easier, right? And for some of the buckets, you might, if you're sitting there going, but even though that's not, my bucket's not full over here, those are two vitally important things. Well,
Mm-hmm.
again, maybe if your budget allows, you could just subcontract out those couple of things. You don't need necessarily an employee to do those things. That's where subcontractors come in
Yep.
handy. I think one key takeaway here is, if you're listening, is success is not defined by the number of employees you have. Just keep that file it in your brain. So when you are in these positions, don't think, well, I have all this stuff. And what happens if you're sitting there and you're evaluating either by yourself because you're a solo owner, or you're sitting there with a partner or a team, and you've done this, and at the end you're like, heck, we could subcontract this all out to about 5 different vendors.
Yep.
Don't let
Or
ego get in the way and go, well, I'd prefer an
yeah,
employee because that makes me look more
yeah.
successful.
Or you could say, I have 10 hours demand for engineering, 2 hours demand for admin. When you write that job description, you fill out that position, put those 2 hours across the engineers, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you don't do the analysis ahead of time, you don't know whether it's appropriate to give it to an engineer, or do you actually need a a person in accounting. So that, but you have to do the analysis,
You got
and
to do
that's
the analysis, and I think that now that we can cross that bridge into compensation, because when we start talking about purpose and who we fundamentally are, if your purpose is to doing good wherever good can be done, including in your business, right? So for your employees, like you want
yep.
them to be able to have a good quality of life, standard of living, all of these things. Then when you're hiring people, you got to be able to provide compensation that actually reflects that.
So you and I have kind of a, not a fundamental difference, but a different methodology and a different approach. I am not capable of defining what is a satisfactory quality of life for anybody other than myself. So, but what I can do is say, here's what the market suggests that that position should be paid. So then we have this line of demarcation, right, between what does the market bear and what does my culture need, and what the culture may or may not need a higher salary. What the culture may need is a good middle of the road salary or hourly rate and a good culture, right? Uh, Probably what it's not going to, what you're not going to want is below market and a grinded out culture, right? So uh, I, of course, am concerned about the quality of life for people, and that they're happy and that their purpose is fulfilled. But I don't know that a business can accurately predict what the market salary for a position will land on somebody in their quality of life, right? So I could be in the top 45%, right? So 55% of the people in the market make less than me. So I'm in the top. I'm in the top half. But based on my own lifestyle, my own choices, may not provide me a good quality of life. But you, on the other hand, you're more frugal. You have, maybe you got roommates or whatever, and that's perfectly fine. So I don't think business owners should necessarily be in the business of, from a financial perspective, answering the question, does this provide a good quality of life? Because that's very subjective. I think the right answer, this is just my opinion, is, am I uh, at least comparable to what the market requires, right? Is it a $20 an hour job, or is it a $30 an hour job? And am I meeting that? I know a lot of companies operating today where their staff are 10, 15, 20% below market. And then they wonder why people are leaving. So what I'm suggesting is be in the middle of the market and then build a good culture that's forward looking, that values education, that values advancement, that values growth, right? So uh,
Well, I think what
that's
I'm
my
hearing
take.
you say, so when I say a good quality of life, I think let's narrow it, like zero in on that. Like if when I'm, especially when you're talking about more of the lower paying jobs, right? I like to talk in examples because I think it makes it
Mm-hmm.
come to life more. So Costco. right? Retail typically doesn't pay a lot. They definitely don't pay their associates very well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Costco is one of, at one point, I don't know if they still are, the best paying, has the best compensation package for its employees,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's part of their culture. So they could either choose. Now, why does that matter, right? Well, there are studies done that, if you, there is a certain number, there's literally a certain number that we have to have. So we're not having to make hard decisions like, do I pay my rent or my mortgage or do I buy groceries, right? And those are very real things. The people who have never been in that may sound like they're not related, but actually
It happens. Yeah.
for
Every day.
working people every day. So, and a lot of times, who falls into those situations? A lot of folks in retail, right?
Yeah.
They're the ones who are facing that. Costco said, no, we're going to do some good wherever good can be done. I'm going to throw that back at you again.
Yeah. Yeah. I I I I bet, and we'll have to research this, but I'll bet you a lemonade. But that's not where Costco started.
Yeah, I don't
My
know. We did that'd be
Yeah,
good.
I would bet that they grew into that because the market required it. If they wanted to retain good employees, that's what the market required. But I bet they didn't start there. I'm not suggesting that you don't do that over time. Uh, but when we are first hiring or early stage growth, if you're not looking at it from that financial perspective and being, uh, you know, above a little bit above market, but also have a great culture where people like coming to work, you may not be able to afford Costco top, 1% uh, uh,
I,
in the market. So
I hear what you're saying. However, there's so many ways, and we've said this saying, we have no idea where it comes from, skin the cat.
yeah.
So Costco may have, I don't know. I agree with you. We should research it. We should look it up. But if you're really trying to provide a good, at least good is relative, I'll give you that, but a
Mm-hmm.
standard of living where people are not in the position, like there's kind of like a baseline that all people should be at. And that's another conversation, but we'll just say
Yeah.
right now. They can say, well, I really want to pay my employees well. Well, I can't keep my doors open 24/7 and pay employees that. Like I can't do both. So maybe they sat at the table at one point, we don't know, and said, like, I want to be able to pay my employees this kind of wage in order to be able to do that, but I can't keep the same hours that Walmart has. I can't keep the same hours that some of these other, so I'll have to shorten our hours. So there's,
Yep.
again, different ways to skin the cat. Well, however you skin that cat, poor cat, demonstrates what your purpose is because actions do speak louder than words. So if you're going to say, I always bring it back to, if you're going to say your people are your priority, if you're in the business for the people, especially your employees, then you got to show that.
Yeah. I don't know a company in operation. I know we're running short on time, but I don't know a company
We
in
have to continue
operation.
this.
I don't know a company in operation today that doesn't either say our customers are our first priority or our employees or it's it's always one of those two. And for
And lots
those
of
that
them, yeah, but lots of
and
them are not being like lots of people don't believe it.
yeah, well, yeah, that's because everybody says it. But I would have a bone of contention with anybody that says Costco is the only model, right?
Oh, yeah, no, no.
Or pick because there are plenty of companies where the employees are paid uh, the median for the job, right? So the average salary in the market for their job that just have fantastic culture and people are very loyal to their employer. So it's not always about
Oh,
being in the
it's
top.
not always about the
Uh,
comp. No, there's other ways. That's
uh,
what we need to get into, and I got
yeah,
to cut
that's
it
what we
short
need to
because
get
we're over
into
time.
next.
Next time, we're going to talk about skinning the cat in terms of comp. How does that look? And if somebody could shoot us a message, drop in the comments, where the heck did that saying come from? I keep meaning to research because
Skin the cat.
it's really nasty. I just saying that. It's really nasty. So our next show, that's what we're going to talk about. So let's put a pin in it there. And I'm going to try to end the show, Mr. Mayfield, on a note where I'm not making a blooper. Bloop. See, I just did. I just said
A
blooper.
boulder.
Okay. So thank you for tuning in to Evolve Together with Empower People. I'm your host, Tiffany Joy Greene, MBA, and we have me and Chris Mayfield here. Like to duke it out. It's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. We hope today's episode inspired you, provided you valuable insights, and empowered you to take the next step in your purpose driven journey. Don't forget to connect with Empowered People on social media. Share your thoughts. Tell us where Skin the Cat came from. And join the Empowered People community where education, connection, and support is offered to mission and purpose driven leaders to drive positive impact and empower people. So until next time, keep evolving, stay empowered, and remember that together we can achieve greatness. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on the next episode of Evolve Together with Empower People. Let's evolve together.